Hello and welcome to the second virtual town hall from Hayworth College of Business, Zhang Career Center. Thank you all very much for joining us today. We have a fantastic group of people here to help answer any questions that you may have concerning COVID-19 and concerning not the actual disease or disease, but what it's doing to employers and hiring processes and everything else. So we're going to have some great information here to share with you today. We have some wonderful, wonderful guests. First off, we have Dan Barron. He comes to us from Comerica Bank with over 35 years of extensive leadership experience. He's a vice president and a private banking officer there. Thank you, Dan Barron, for being with us today. He's also our executive in residence for the Zhang Career Center, and we are very honored to have him. We have Abby Watteny, who's a talent manager for Enterprise Holding. She's very much involved with diversity and inclusion as a facilitator as well. Thank you, Abby, for joining us. And we have Mickey Maher, University Relations Manager at Rock Central, here to represent the east side of the state in the great Detroit metropolis area. So thank you all for being here. We very much appreciate your attendance, and you guys are all awesome. First, for attendees, if you have questions, you do have a Q&A function here. Please put every single question that you have in that Q&A function. You should see that on your bottom right-hand side of the screen. If you have questions, please give them to us, and we would be happy to ask your questions for you. But to start, what we're going to do first is we're going to take a quick poll. So we have a number of polls that we're going to give throughout this process. You have 1 minute to finish this poll. If you could please fill this out, that would be fantastic. Make sure you hit submit, and that would be great. Can you see those percentages?
Yep.
Doing good?
Yep.
All right.
We have about 20 seconds left, so if you haven't answered, we would love to hear what you have to say.
All right, we're going to move forward, but please feel free, if the poll's still up, to submit your answers as you can. Greg, would you like to start us off with the first question?
Yeah, so the first question that we have for our panel is, what would you, as an employer, recommend for students to do if they do not have an internship? And what would look best on a resume during this time, this summer of COVID, whateverness?
So whoever would like to take that, Dan, do you have something?
I'll start out. Thank you. First off, I wanted to thank West. So many moons ago. Very thankful for the organizations and Zhang Career Center. One of the things I've done a lot of research on this topic. One of the things I found very important right now with not having an internship is to build that resume, which basically means that a lot of community involvement. Many places, I was reading a story about some college kids that had rented a truck and drove the truck from the farmers to the market to get some of their product to homeless banks that are really suffering. So community involvement is probably the most important thing. And then I would second that to look at opportunities to build your skill set. I've noticed a lot of times writing classes sometimes help people with it's an opportunity for you to really build your skill set and really focus on emotional intelligence, which is really the ability to work with others. And I would strongly take advantage of the time. Is just my thoughts.
All right, thank you, Dan. Abby or Mickey, anything to add?
Yeah, I was actually going to say something. I wrote down some of the same things, community involvement, because there is such a lack of job market. However, I think that, as businesses start to rebound, there might be some employment. I know it might not be the internship that maybe originally was planned, or the type of job that you thought maybe you would have, going into your last year of school, but everybody's in the same boat and everybody understands what's going on, looking at resumes, or even right now when I'm looking at resumes on LinkedIn, just seeing that like there's going to be some gaps, and it's okay because that's the the pandemic that we're in. But the community involvement, I think, is huge. I'm getting a ton of things from the United Way, different agencies around the state for United Way right now about they need help, or the Gleaners Food Bank, the Food Bank Council of Michigan, they need help. Forgotten Harvest in the Metro Detroit area, they need help, So exactly what Dan said. And then again, like any type of professional development that you can do, whether it be, books or podcasts, or if you can join some online type of courses like a speaking course. I find that's one that really helps people in all facets of business. So I think those are all great ideas, not to just, piggyback up everything that Dan said, but that's what we're focusing on right now.
Right on.
Yeah, I agree. All of those things I think are very important. Nonprofit work is huge. That's what I've been telling everyone. So I'm really glad that we're all on the same page with that. You can find now, especially with it being a virtual environment, that there are a lot of free courses online. I know even for myself, I've always been interested in flexing my muscle in Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator. So I'm just continuing my education in that way because I've never done it before. So those can always be something that you can do as well as a student. Even if you're not necessarily going into marketing, it's always great to have a well-rounded background, as well as doing like things like typing tests or like really anything just to keep you building out your portfolio from any standpoint. LinkedIn is huge. This is your chance to really dive into LinkedIn and refine your profile, connect with recruiters, connect with C-suite people, just connect with anyone you can. Use LinkedIn as a mentorship tool. All of these things you can still do. Definitely reach out to recruiters and university relations managers because we're still here for you. So just utilize your resources.
Right. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for those wonderful answers. We appreciate it. Greg, do you want to take us to question number 2?
Yes. So the next question I have for you is, are there going to be any changes in terms of like needed skills a student may need going into the business world post-COVID?
I can start with that one. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Evie.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thanks. I think that obviously the same skills that we've been talking about for forever are going to be important. However, there's going to be a huge focus, especially if you have any type of customer facing on, the safety and health and well-being of everyone, whether that be employees or customers, things like that. So I think just, whatever type of research you can do about, best practices for those types of things, I think will be really important, because even if you're going to start a job where you're going to go into an office where you're not customer facing, those things are still going to be important because all companies, care about their employees and the safety and well-being of all their employees as well.
Yeah, and I think, soft skills are definitely still going to be there. They're needed now more than ever, I think. Obviously, technology, too, that's a huge skill set that we need, just because not only is this new for students, I know as a student, I would have been really intimidated having to take all of my classes online just because I don't learn as well that way. But also employers and other corporations, we're all going through this too. Not all of us were fully comfortable or equipped to go completely remote. Like, this is new for us as well. So just reminding yourself that you are that fresh set of eyes and you've been around technology for a really, really long time. So sometimes I find myself asking other people on my team just how to work things and figure everything out. So I need that teamwork and collaboration more than I've ever needed it before. So those are some skills you'll definitely want to continue to refine. Communication styles are going to change within, I think, the climate just in general. As you can see at the beginning of all of our virtual meetings, there'll be times where someone wants to talk and someone else wants to talk, like Abby and I just did. That's just something that happens all of the time. So really refining your communication styles, whether it's email templates that you want to look up online or figuring out the best virtual platform, whether it be like MX or WebEx, Zoom, things like that. Being able to bring forth things that other employers, it's all new for us. So those are just some skills I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I had in Mickey's comments, agility. You know, they're going to ask a lot of the employees looking for folks that can do a lot of different things. So agility is, you know, the ability to do multiple things. And then I would add, we're going to probably go into an environment where people won't be working, like in our industry in banking, we won't be in the office 100% of the time anymore. I think there's going to be a major shift. So I think you have to adapt to that. That presents, and I think Mickey, you said it very well. It adapts. That means that you have to change a little bit towards your style, communication. You know, I don't have access to in the office, so I just would be very conscious to what will look like when we come out of this COVID, and be very, you know, ability to kind of be flexible. And again, I would second my illustrious colleagues' comments in there earlier.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for that. Greg, question number 3.
Yeah, well, before I get into the next question, I just want for the panel, for you all to know, the breakdown of our first question was just trying to figure out our audience a little bit. So 53% of our audience are students, 13% are alumni, 5% are other employers, and 11% would be some career services. Just to let you all know.
Very good.
Next question that we have is, what should I do to stand out when I'm doing a virtual internship?
You know, I think some of the things that Mickey was just talking about, you know, your communication style, really getting to understand all of the virtual platforms, and then also just effective and professional communication styles, right? You know, so if you get an email sent to you, not just responding, okay, you know, like making sure that it is a professional style email, or that you're checking in like you're supposed to. Another thing that, you know, we've really had to make a shift. I've never worked from home before, but making sure you have a professional space set up and time set aside that's away from TV and away from all distractions, things like that. I think it's really important because the distractions come so quickly. I literally have a little 5-year-old standing outside this glass door right now waving at me, but it's just realizing that, okay, I'm on right now, this is what I'm doing, and like having to be, you know, focus on that type of stuff. So it's easy to sit on your couch, you know, and start typing away on things, but it's not probably the most effective. And I think my first couple of weeks at home right now, I, you know, stayed in my sweats and I didn't really get ready, you know, I don't put a suit on or anything every day, but I've really, over the last probably month, have been like, nope, I've got to get up, I got to do my workout, I got to shower, I got to be ready, because the longer that we've been on this extended, you know, time away from the office, the more people are going, okay, well, instead of just a phone call, we're going to Zoom. Instead of a Zoom, we're going to, you know, we're going to start doing more interactive things, just to make sure people, you know, not they're doing what they're doing, just they're getting what they need out of what they're doing.
You know, and I would add to Abby's comment, you really do, you put in what you're going to get, what you put into it. So I think it's really important, if you're going to do it full, do 100% of it. Don't sit back. I think that's really important. I did find some information I can share after that kind of gives you some of the basics of, you know, kind of how to offset some of the cons of virtual internships. So, well, you know, I'll be able to share that with Bob, and we can help the students some of the things. But, you know, really, you almost have to over communicate. And I agree with Abby's comment. I've seen people just say yes on an email, and that, to me, I don't think it really, you know, really provides the right framework. You know, you want to also balance your emotions too. If somebody sends something to you that you don't want to, you're upset about it, you know, emotional intelligence of working with your colleagues is really important. So that I would add to her comments.
Yeah, I mean, agree with everything you all are saying as well. And I think I keep emphasizing to students, this is new for everyone. So the fact that we all have this chance to innovate together, like this, you could potentially build out a process for a company that's never been implemented before, because we've never been backed into a corner like this before. I mean, even for us, like Quicken Loans has been an online lender the entire entirety of the company, but going completely all online for 28,000 people is something we've never done before. So this is our time to really innovate and process improve anything that we're doing. And I think as a student, you can do that if you pick apart what a company is doing right now. If you're an intern or if you're not an intern, if you notice their social media is off base, or if you notice their messaging or emails are off base, like that's just something you can provide for that company, and it would make you stand out tremendously, because we're all new and this is your chance to really voice and showcase the fresh set of eyes that you have.
Yeah, and in the spirit of career development, just to share, I've said this to every single student that I've talked to. Employers in the future, and back me up, employers, because I'm sure this is going to happen, are going to ask you what you did during that time, and if you don't have great answers, you're probably out of the hiring process at that point, because everybody's going through this. We're at a stage right now where we're probably realistically over 20% of unemployment, which has never happened to anybody that's in this call. It's never happened to any of us. And this is going to be a very, very new landscape of getting hired. And you want to make sure that you're bringing all of your A game. So, we all have choices to make, and sometimes they're difficult choices, but getting engaged and getting involved is going to be the best thing that you can do. I think we've heard that already. So great. Let's move on to our second poll question. What is your favorite quarantine snack? We do a fun one.
Animal crackers are my kryptonite.
We'll take a couple seconds here so that everybody can answer, and we'll move on.
That's a good one. That would be hard to choose just one. I feel like I'm just snacking. The kitchen, I can see my kitchen and all of my clementines and my crackers, and I'm just like, I could eat that all day.
Yeah.
Tough to choose one.
All right, so we'll let people kind of finish up on that poll question, but let's move on to our next question, Greg.
Yeah, perfect. Can you all see me? All right, so this next question is kind of a follow-up in terms of virtual internships. What should I be doing if I'm finding that I'm not having enough stuff to keep me busy for an 8-hour day?
Greg, I'm going to jump on that. I found it as we're going to have to interact a little bit more, meaning don't be afraid to tell, if you're working with your boss, don't be afraid to ask to volunteer for other activities. I've never in my career found that anybody asking for additional things to do is a bad thing. And I think we're all kind of learning. I think Mickey talked about it. We're all learning in the employer. I've never worked at home more than maybe 5% of the time now. So the employers are trying to work through this too. So don't be afraid to raise your hand, be willing to do what you need to do. And instead of using, I can do it, I'd say, I will do it is more what I would add.
That's exactly what I would say. I mean, reaching out, asking for what you can do, asking for more, and then just being really transparent about, hey, I'm getting done with everything, sooner than maybe the timeline, said. Is there something that I can do, or is there somebody that I can help? Or is there something I can learn? Or do you have any recommendations for any type of supplemental things that I could do? Again, like books or podcasts or different online courses, things like that.
You good, Mickey?
Yeah, I think you all nailed that perfectly. Yep.
Awesome. Greg, what's next?
All right, so the next question I have is not necessarily COVID related, but what advice do you have for students who may be a non-traditional student? So they may have gone into the workforce and then went back to college, and they're now trying to get themselves into the workforce.
mean, I would say that I don't think it's much different than
Yeah.
anybody else. I mean, again, everybody's in the same boat. We're all in this pandemic together. And, if they're back to school, I mean, again, these jobs are going to open up. They're all going to look a little bit different, probably. But I think we just need to, I mean, I would do the same exact thing that you would do if, a student that just, graduating college going into the workforce. I don't think there's anything different about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the same type of process. And even let's say you were going from one business area and completely deciding to change your career to a different one, I would also be open to internships too, because maybe let's say you went from, I don't know, nursing, and then you decided you wanted to go into software engineering, but you've never had a position in software engineering before. I would still look at internships, even though you're a little bit further along in your career, just because you get to try it out and understand if this is something you fully want to do. But I agree with Abby. I don't think it's necessarily different. Just keep checking the job boards that companies are creating, because oftentimes companies are looking for someone a little further along in their career, especially right now, because training centers might be looking different, or we might not have the capacity to train as we could have in the past. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Abby and talked about. I would say just don't be afraid to kind of push yourself into, I've learned better, you grow more by doing different things sometimes. So don't be afraid to push yourself to try different things too.
All right. Sounds great. I'm not sure if anybody can hear me because my Cisco WebEx is logged up or locked up a little bit, but I can hear you. So,
You're good, Bob.
okay, cool. Greg, do you have another question for us?
Yeah. So what can I do over the summer to get ready for the fall recruiting season?
Yeah, I think practicing your skills, practicing, your elevator pitch, practicing your, being able to talk about what your summer did look like, or the involvement that you've had on campus. I mean, it's a really good time just to, like, go online, Google some of the questions, Google, best things to do at a career fair. I'm sure, talking with, Comerica and Quicken and Enterprise and all these different companies throughout the year. These are some of the topics that you, I'm sure, have talked about in your business classes. So it's just a good time to sharpen it and practice, and just like with anything else.
I agree. And I think utilizing LinkedIn is huge. I know I've already said it once, but I'm a huge advocate for LinkedIn. I think you can connect with, I know you can connect with people across the world. So it's a really great opportunity just to, show off your skills and showcase what you've done over the summer. Connecting with those people can help you in the fall for sure. And I think being forgiving to companies too, because some of us don't know what we're fully doing in the fall. And we have a pretty robust internship program, and we've been leaders in the field, but we still are, it's new and we're not sure what we're doing in the fall. So just trying to connect on multiple avenues, so that way we can stay connected with you all too. So definitely LinkedIn, I think, is the easiest and most accessible one to use.
Agree.
Yeah, I would add to Mickey's comment about LinkedIn. We own LinkedIn in our industry. We don't even communicate. We're very careful on using social media because of the professionalism and importance. But the only thing else I would add is don't be afraid to do mock interviews. I know Career Center does some mock interviews, and I found that to be very helpful. I participated in a few last fall, and just practice. And sometimes just I would do it with your fellow student or your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend. Don't be afraid to practice, because sometimes it's just getting you comfortable, and you learn things about yourself that you really didn't. I remember a long time ago, they videotaped an interview that I was doing, and I realized all the things I was doing wrong. So, it's always a learning opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Greg, let's do one more question.
Yeah. So the next question that I have from the student board is, do you see any types of positions that might gain steam after the COVID part this summer, or do you see any positions that start to fade out or disappear? Any types of positions in general?
I think that a lot of companies are trying to, I shouldn't say are trying to, had to get a little bit lean over the last couple months, and redundant positions or like administrative staff positions. Like we have had to, minimize a lot of those. For now, we don't know what it's going to look like, in the next week, month, whatever that may be, depending on, what the state of emergency and shelter in place, looks like. So people who can be versatile and do other positions and are willing to do other positions are going to be what people want. There's always a description of a job, in a posting or wherever it may be. And, like there's typically a line that says, amongst other things, or, whatever else may be asked of you. Like you need to be willing to do those other things a little bit outside of your comfort zone, a little bit outside of what you thought you were going to be doing. I think companies are just going to ask for people to do more because, we're all navigating through it.
Yeah, I think that's a tough question. I'm not an expert forecaster. Data is not my strongest suit, but I think just looking at what we've done, I can speak for Quicken specifically, what we've done in the past few months, because I'm over 2 months of working from home. We've been working from home since the beginning of March. So we've noticed sales, we still need salespeople and we still need technology people. I've noticed just being on LinkedIn and seeing what my other university relations managers that I've met just going on campus through other companies are also looking for those type of roles as well. I know customer service is still around. We just got told this morning that one of our family of companies is looking for quite a few customer service roles. So I don't think those are going anywhere. I can't really speak upon anything other than that, but technology, of course, too. I've seen more Zoom ads or WebEx ads than I've ever seen Microsoft Teams ads in my entire life. I think technology is going to be even more of a in-demand position as well. So.
And I would just add a couple things on my end. Our industry, I think Abby might have talked about it. We have really pared down our administrative staff. So the truth of it is we're going to do a lot more now because we don't have that, because companies want to be lean, especially in the COVID and not knowing when this is going to change, turn around. I would kind of be very sensitive to, we're going to probably see change in our world, like food delivery, online, like Amazon. I think every day my wife gets a package from somebody. I can't even, I work by my computer all day long and I got to answer the door. But in any event, I think the way we deliver things too will change too. I know FedEx has changed the way they design things. So I would just be kind of cognizant of much of what we're going to look like as we come out of this. And, it's going to be different. And, again, agile is probably what I would suggest everybody to approach it, be willing to do it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I think Bob's having a little bit of issues with his WebEx, so he will be back in soon. We're going to start our next poll soon, but before we do that, I know in the Q&A we had some questions on what was the most popular snack that people are eating right now. And by far, y'all are eating popcorn a lot. But Flamin' Hot Cheetos were a close second. So, all right. So Jen is going to be sending out that next poll. Just let folks fill that out real quick. We're also getting a lot of good questions in this Q&A section. about 25 more seconds to fill out this current poll. So the next question that I have is, how do I find a professional mentor?
LinkedIn. I've mentioned it quite a few times. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just love the tool. LinkedIn, I think, is a great spot to do it. You could post a status. You could search for whatever mentor that you're looking for, either by skill set, business area, company, whatever you're looking for. You can do that through LinkedIn and message whoever that is and just say, hey, I'm looking to seek a mentor. You could do something like this, like a virtual coffee chat with them, or just connect and see how they've been doing things. I think that's a phenomenal way to do it. And that is, again, I think it's just a really easy, accessible tool. So that could be a good way.
I agree with LinkedIn. I think that's an excellent, and don't be afraid to ask for help. One of the things, people won't really do it unless you ask. So sometimes be specific. If you need help, a lot of us as we get older in our career, and I'm probably the old panel here by far, uh, we're always willing to help and just ask. Sometimes just as Mickey talked about, make that professional contact. Set up a virtual meeting, whatever you need to do. But then don't be afraid to ask. We're all out here to help, especially the folks that are Western. We're more than happy to assist. I can't mentor 100,000 students, but we're always willing to help.
Yeah, same type of thing that you guys are saying, like LinkedIn obviously is I feel like it's the buzzword today, right? But LinkedIn is definitely a way to go, or any of the contacts that you made throughout the year, through Western, through the Career Center, Services Center. Look for positions that you want, right? And you also, I think, need to build that relationship with somebody, not just like, bam, hey, Mickey, will you be my mentor? Like, wait a minute, who are you? Right? So like, start to build a relationship. And then, like Dan was saying, you have to ask for what you want. So look for somebody who's a performer, look for somebody who, this is important to me, somebody who's very positive and posts positive things on LinkedIn, posts, informational things, not just, their accomplishments, but, useful, fortune articles, or useful, tips for the industry. I think that's really important. So look for the industry you want, look for a top performer, always hitch your wagon to somebody that you want to be associated with.
All right. So the next question that we have may be a little bit more of a technical question, but they want to know what kind of challenges your company has faced regarding the sharing of data, and if there was any, like, did you have any cross-departmental communication issues with that as well? And then how did you all go about fixing that kind of challenge, sharing data with each other?
So I know for us, for my team specifically, and this isn't something we knew, but we've always used Google Docs as an internal team, just on the side, like and then we learned through all of our other secure technologies that Google Docs isn't the best way to do it, because we don't have like an actual account. We just would use our own personal Gmails just because it was easy. So then we learned that Teams has SharePoint and you can do things like that. A huge technological issue that we've been having is getting Wi-Fi. We haven't realized how many people don't actually have Wi-Fi in their homes. Being in Detroit, we partner with a lot of high schoolers, and a lot of our interns just don't have that. So we've been working with our community team to provide Wi-Fi for those who need it. I work and live now all in one spot, and my fiance is a recruiter as well. So we're both on Teams or the phone and our emails and have our phone with our Wi-Fi. So things like that are a little bit hard, but because Wi-Fi can be slow and things like that. But when it comes to data, I think it just depends on the internal service that you use. I can't really speak on too many of them. Microsoft Teams has changed so much, even in the past few weeks that we've been using it. I don't know who's been giving them feedback, but it's been awesome. Every week there's a new update that's going on between the business. But when it comes to our mortgage bankers and our technology team, we created all of our technologies ourselves, quite a few years ago, and we've been adapting those. So that's just a little bit of what we've been doing. But I think it's case by case depending on your internal systems and things like that.
Thank you so much. All right. So next question. Oh, did you have something?
Yeah, one more thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. I paused for a minute, so my apology. One of the things that we struggle with is privacy and sharing of information. So we found out within remote work, not being able to use a sanctioned printer was a major challenge for us. So, documents have to be signed in our industry. So I don't think we have is that, the business, is to be able to print on your sanctioned company printer. Now I can't send it home because that's privacy breach. So we're still working through that. There are document signed software that we're utilizing, but more to come.
Yeah, we've been using, obviously utilizing the same types of things, Teams and Skype and Zoom and DocuSign and, whatever we can use. But, when we are connected to our VPN, we can't use any outside printers. So I'm like, whoa. But now I'm seeing that the company's putting a lot more, restrictions, because I was having to send it to my personal email address and print some things out. And then we realized that everybody was doing that, and, somebody outside of HR probably shouldn't have that access to do that. So it's a learning curve for sure.
Thank you. So I know a couple of you are in the recruiting part for your companies. Do you see the hiring process for graduates going back to normal once the economy's back to normal?
We hope for sure, but I don't think that the actual process of it is going to be the same. But I think, we hope once business is rebounded, back, the travel industry has been hit a little bit hard, which is, we're a part of. And by a little, that's kind of a joke, but, we're hoping that our fleet is back and we're back to where we need to be running strong with our hiring. But I think our positions are going to look a little bit different. I think our interview process is going to look a little bit different. It's going to be a lot more virtual than it ever has been before. But again, I think our positions are all going to look a little bit different, but I think that, we're very hopeful that, we end up with, a bigger, stronger, faster team than ever before. And it might take a little bit though. I don't think it's going to be the numbers that we look for. May is obviously a big hiring month for us, and maybe it'll be in July, maybe it'll be in August. It's all going to look a little bit different.
Yeah, I agree. We're going through right now, we're redoing our 2 human resources floors, and we just got a survey earlier this week talking about, like, traditionally how many students would our team bring in for tours, or how many people would you bring in to interview? Do you need a hiring leader and the leader and the decision maker all in one room? How many people do you have in a conference? Things like this. So I think it's all going to change. And it's not just because of, I just want to throw this out there. It's not just because the companies are looking at things differently or that they can't do things the same way. It's just we really want to be cautious and safe for everyone involved. Like, this is also for the candidates' well-being too. We don't know who you come in contact with every day. What if, anything happened and you go visit your grandma or your grandparents, and, you just never know. So we just want to be safe with everyone involved. So yeah, I think it's going to go very virtual. I think it'll look very different. Travel, I think, like you mentioned, is going to be interesting as well. When it comes to campus recruitment, I think that'll look incredibly different as well. I think there will still be resources out, but I'm going to say different again. It's going to look different.
I think we've all learned through this process what we can do virtually, where before it was never really an option, where it was everybody came into the office every day and everybody, did their thing. We had face-to-face meetings and, we kind of freaked out when we all came home, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be there for a meeting. Well, nobody's there for a meeting. So, the only people that are in our buildings are the people that have to be there, just essential personnel right now. And we've realized that, like, hey, we can do just about everything that we need to do looking at this computer screen. So it's different. It's different to get used to, but I think that we just had a meeting actually earlier today about what have we learned already through this? What have we learned that we can do, what we can't do, what travel is essential, what travel is not essential. We've just learned a lot about what our trainings are going to look like, or what they should look like. So it's a learning experience for everybody, and different is definitely the word. Different is how it's going to look. And we're not even sure.
Looks like you might have been muted for that last part.
Hopefully my facial expression has told it all, and you guys can. It's gonna look different. If you didn't get that, it's gonna look different in virtual.
All right. Welcome back, Bob. We missed you.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
All right. So the next question I have is, we have heard about LinkedIn a lot. And so the students are asking, is there something that I can put on my LinkedIn profile that might make a recruiter want to reach out to me?
Yeah, there are quite a few things. I think you should keep your skills updated on there. One thing I like to tell students that are looking for, let's say, sales in the future, you can edit your title on LinkedIn to say like sales motivated student or something like that. So that way, when a recruiter types in the search bar, like let's say we say Western Michigan sales student, you'll be one of the first people to come up. And that's really important. So I think utilizing that title instead of just saying student or senior or something like that, make it a little more focused on what you want to do after you graduate, or what you want to do for your upcoming internship. I would also really highly suggest looking at your other classmates or professors or just leaders in the industry, whoever you have, and endorsing them on LinkedIn. So that way, hopefully they do the same to you as well. I know not all recruiters look at that the same, but it is one thing that'll set you apart from everyone else on that site. And also, I think Abby was the one who mentioned it earlier, just be cautious of what you post, because that is also being looked at by recruiters. Like, is this person posting positive professional content? LinkedIn will show everything that you've liked, commented, been featured in, everything on one page, and it's really easy to sift through. So just make sure when you're communicating and spreading the things that you want, make sure you're branding yourself in the proper way, because you don't want it to be negatively impacting your success in the future.
Cool. Is there anybody else have anything to add, or are we ready to move on?
Let's go.
Let's move on. All
I think
right.
she said it well.
All right. Perfect. Good job, Mickey. I'm not sure where we're at with the polls because I was out for like 15 minutes there, but there we go. Hey, look, a poll. Thanks, Jen. How'd you hear about this town hall meeting? We really would like to know the answer to that question, just to see where we're being successful and see where we can be more successful in doing this in the future as well. All right, and how are we doing on questions, Greg? We got a couple more?
We have a ton of questions, so I'm sifting through them to find similar themes.
All right, so what do you got?
All right. So we talked about agility and being able to adapt to changes being something that is important. How does a potential job candidate demonstrate adaptability or being able to quickly change to the demands?
I think on your resume, when you're putting, whatever job it may be, I know enterprise, right? So if I put management trainee, like making sure you're really highlighting the skills that wouldn't normally come under that, or, different programs that you've been able to utilize or use, that aren't the norm, I guess. And then also just, I think that Dan mentioned it, or I mean, Dan was the first one to mention it about, the extracurricular type of things, the philanthropic work that you're doing, things like that. I mean, it just shows that you're able to adapt and take on more.
And I would just,
and I would also, on top of that too, when you're putting it on your resume and you're in either that phone interview or whatever it might be, just reiterate it, because even though the recruiter might be looking at your resume in front of you and they might be talking about some of the experiences that you've done in the past, I mean, an interview is basically just a sales pitch for yourself. So feel free to sell yourself and really showcase how you were able to adapt from one thing to the next. I know oftentimes when we do resumes, it'll say like experiences, and then on the bottom, it'll say extracurriculars. So feel free to just tie them together yourself when you're speaking about yourself.
and I would just add, I don't remember if it was Mickey or Abby, but this is a great time to show, especially with COVID, what you're doing differently. And just if you build that resume, people are going to notice it. And I think you need to be very specific on what you do in regards to, your learning and things that you've done. So.
Right on. What's next, Greg?
Yeah. So I have a two-part question for you. Actually, I think it's just a one-part question, but is looking at my resume, would it look better for me to stay in my current job and have longevity, or for me to go into an internship and have that potential breakup of jobs in terms of how they're listed on the resume?
I think it all depends. It depends what industry you want to go into. If the internship will give you that extra experience and knowledge that you need for the job that you want, then in my opinion, that would be the way to go. But if, not just to say you had an internship, I think, keeping a job, longevity in a job is also important. So it all just depends on what that internship would do for you, or what that job that you're currently in would do for you to make you stand out and give you those, those competencies that whatever company you want to work for is interested in.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a very loaded question for one, because it definitely does, it differs. But the one thing I would recommend if you're in that situation and let's say you do make the leap to the internship, make sure you're the one creating that narrative when you're talking to a recruiter. So let them know why you did it. Once you explain why you did it, for the most part, recruiters will understand. If you just said, oh, whatever, you had miscommunications and you were never able to resolve something, or if it was something negative and that's why you decided to leave, then that's something different. But still be open with the recruiters. If you want to move to an internship because you think there's more growth there, I would recommend you doing it. I know when I look at resumes, we usually see a lot of like courage and growth when we see something like that, but also longevity is an incredible thing to have, especially nowadays. So it really depends on your situation, and it depends on the company and the recruiter. It's all very subjective, but I would just recommend, again, making sure you create that narrative when you're talking to a recruiter, so that way you are telling your story the way it's supposed to be told, instead of a recruiter just looking at your two experiences and trying to figure it out themselves.
I would just say what Mickey just said, communicate. You got to make sure you spell that out, because if it's not answered, it's gonna raise a question mark for you.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw my 2 cents in on that one as well as a career advisor. Let's make sure that we communicate it the right way too. And so communication, absolutely. But we noticed this in the first recession. If you were around for the recession that happened, in 2008, 2009, 2010, where people were basically almost giving excuses or using an excuse to say this was why. And that's something that we need to make sure that all of you move away from. It can't be this was why. It was, well, this was a challenge, but this is what I did to overcome that challenge. I had to make the decision to go into an internship because of the job situation that I was in. It was more stable for me and my situation at the time, and then maybe you go into, the reasons why you're moving from internship to job. So there's always ways to do that. There's always ways to communicate that. And if you need help with that, let us know and we can help you do that for sure. Greg, real quick, I saw an interesting thing pop up on the feed. What was the favorite snack?
Yeah, the favorite snack was popcorn and
Popcorn,
hot Cheetos. I think you fell out during that part.
Yeah, I did. Oh man, I'm sorry, I missed out. I'll have to watch the
yes.
video.
So I think we have enough time for about 2 more questions. An interesting question that we had pop up. So a lot of universities are letting students consider credit or no credit in terms of some of the courses that they're having during the transition to online education. Do you all see that impacting your decision when looking through their transcripts and hiring students?
No, I mean, I don't. I think because it's just kind of the norm right now. I don't know. I was on a call with Jen and a couple other people from Western, I guess 2 months ago, maybe. I don't know. I mean, right when we kind of started and hearing that was being offered, and then all of a sudden I was hearing it from every school that we recruit from. So I think that it's the norm and it's what we're going to kind of have to go by, right? But again, similar to what Mickey said about writing your narrative, like talking about what you did and how you did and the projects that you were involved in and things like that is going to be important.
Great. And then I think a great question to leave off on is, what message do you want the town hall attendants to walk away from most from this meeting?
I'm gonna jump in.
I think one message that I would want any student to really take away in this climate and environment is that you have resources. I definitely don't want any student to feel like they're being left behind or abandoned or whatever that feeling might be, because this is all new and different and a little more disconnected than usual. Utilize the technologies that you have around you. I'll say LinkedIn again. If you want to connect with me, or just type in university relations managers or campus recruiters or whatever you need in the search bar to connect with more people, find that mentorship. Make sure you're still engaging. And it's probably, I know if I was a student, I said this before, if I went all online, I probably would have been a little bit lost. I don't know how well I would have done. So just for me, from a personal standpoint, just make sure you're still motivating yourself and putting yourself out there so that way you don't get lost, and just remember you have resources and we're here for you.
And I would add to that, Mickey's comments, just be positive. This is unprecedented times. We're probably not going to see this again. That being said, being positive that there's a good outcome, that you're going to get a job, we can tell when candidates come in, we can tell if they're really not into it pretty quickly. I mean, you can judge very fast. So I would say, these are tough times. We're all pulling together. We're going to get through this, but also be very positive that don't walk in with a chip on your shoulder. It's a little bit when you go through interviews, but just again reinforce that, and don't, again, to what Mickey just said, ask for help.
Mhm. And I mean, obviously everything that you guys, the other two just said, but be willing to adapt, be willing to expand your search a little bit because the jobs are going to look a little bit different. You know, again, we're all in the same situation. We're not going to use any excuses. I mean, we're all in this, right? And so we be as proactive as you can. You know, waiting for jobs to come find you is not really the way to go, right? So look for mentors, look for jobs. Again, expand your search and be willing to step outside of your comfort zone, whether that be for your job search or for your, you know, the expansion of your skill set. Learn different things, learn from different mentors, read different articles, you know, things that you might not be doing right now. I mean, why not? This is the time to be able to do them. We're all, you know, sitting at home or, you know, close to home. And we've got a little bit of extra time. So instead of binge watching Netflix or something, you know, maybe you can do a little bit more professional development. I know that it's something that I have to focus on.
Agreed. Well, thank you. So out of respect for time for everybody, we are nearing the end of our session here today. I want to throw it out there real quick though, before anybody leaves. If you're looking for Spurs credit, this is something that I neglected to say at the beginning, and I meant to. This is an advanced professional insight for your Spurs credit if you need it. Danny said that she's going to add it for you. You do not need to report it to her. She's going to have a list of people that attended, so don't worry about that. Last thing that we want to do is we want to thank our guests very much for everything that they've done here. We apologize for any kind of technical difficulty that we had, which was me. But thank you, Dan Barron. Thank you, Abby Watteny, and thank you, Mickey Maher, for all being here today. We very much appreciate everything that you have shared with us. And we will be sharing this recording for other students to look at and see later. For all those that attended, remember, these are the people that are making hiring decisions. You know, these are the people that know what's going on at their own organizations. I heard Mickey say LinkedIn about 100 times, which I completely agree with you, Mickey. Absolutely. LinkedIn is the tool to be using right now, and you should be using it every single day right now, especially if you don't have anything going on. Reach out to people, talk to people. This is the only way you're going to figure this out. And we're all figuring it out together. So we have to communicate, right? So thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for everything that you all do. And tune into us next time for Town Hall, virtual Town Hall number 3, which will be in 3 weeks. Thank you all for being here.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you.